Welcome to Live Interactive English. Hello, everyone. I am Mike.
And I am Karen. Today we are looking at day one of the Best of the Bard. Everyday English phrases from Shakespeare. Wow, we've all heard of this name before. Shakespeare, right?
That's right.
Let me ask you, are you a fan of his work?
I don't know. I think if you like reading, if you like English, if you like acting in plays, you kind of have to be a fan of Shakespeare. He's one of the most famous playwrights. That is an author who writes plays in English history and maybe even in world history. His stories are still popular today. They're made, of course, into plays, movies, TV shows, all sorts of things. So yeah, I think Shakespeare is so important. Even if you're not a fan, you definitely have to tip your hat to the guy because he kind of changed the English language in many ways.
That's right. I do have to say, I mean, he has a lot of famous, plays or his work. A lot of people have heard of them. But I have to say, when I was in school, we all had to read, his plays. But it was all in different kind of English.
That's
it was a little bit hard to understand.
Absolutely. He was writing plays 500 years ago, and the English language was similar but still quite different from the way we speak it today.
That's
So
right.
today and tomorrow, we're going to be looking at everyday English phrases from Shakespeare. Phrases or little words with ideas that are very sort of closely connected, but these were invented by Shakespeare, and they're words, or phrases, I should say, we use every day. I'm really interested in this because I knew that Shakespeare invented some words that we use now. The words like luggage, lonely, and eyeball were all invented by Shakespeare.
No way.
They didn't have those words before he put them in his plays. And apparently there are also some very well-known phrases that you guys have probably heard and maybe use sometimes in your daily conversation, also from Shakespeare.
So we really have to pay attention to today's lesson.
Absolutely.
In 2002, people in the UK voted William Shakespeare the fifth greatest Briton of all time. That's not bad for someone born in 1564. Over the following 52 years, Shakespeare wrote some of the world's greatest plays and changed the English language forever. So, as we approach what is commonly regarded as his birthday, April 23rd, let's explore some of the phrases Shakespeare popularized that we still use today.
So today we are looking at day one of the Best of the Bard, everyday English phrases from Shakespeare. And I think it's important to learn the lessons today because these are the phrases that we will be able to use in our daily lives.
Absolutely. They're very common phrases, and it's also nice to know where they came from. In this case, the pen of the bard. We should mention the bard is a very common nickname or other name for William Shakespeare. A bard was kind of like a traveling musician, entertainer, and writer back in the old days. So if you meet someone and they say, "Oh, I'm a big fan of the bard," that means they're a big fan of William Shakespeare and his writing. So let's find out all about it and some of his famous phrases. The article begins, in 2002, people in the UK voted William Shakespeare the fifth greatest Briton of all time. Well, that's a pretty good honor. There have been a lot of Britons going back thousands of years. So just a few years ago in 2002, this is what we would call a poll or a survey when they ask people in the country their opinion. And he came in number 5 on the list of greatest Britons. A Briton meaning a person from Great Britain. So you're probably from Scotland or England or Wales or somewhere like that. I looked it up. Winston Churchill, number 1, right? Oh, that makes sense. Isambard Kingdom Brunel, a famous inventor and engineer, number 2. And William Shakespeare came in 5th.
5.
And as the article says, that's not bad for someone born in 1564.
Wow.
He was born around 500 years ago, so still, he's number 5. That's pretty good.
Of course, he's made such a huge impact on everyone's lives, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. Over the following 52 years, Shakespeare wrote some of the world's greatest plays and changed the English language forever. And that's absolutely true because I think a lot of his plays, although sometimes it may be a little bit difficult to understand, but because they are so good and people have studied, people have done research, and people really want to know and learn more about it.
Yes, absolutely. And many movies that we know and love are actually taken from Shakespeare plays and changed around, right? That 10 Things I Hate About You with Heath Ledger, that's actually from a Shakespeare play. That's The Taming of the Shrew.
Really?
So there you go. It's good to know about this stuff.
And another famous one is Romeo and Juliet.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so we're looking at this word here, forever, and that is an adverb. So forever is an adverb that means for a limitless time, always or constantly. For example, you might say, no one can live forever. Or you can also say, the memories of this trip will stay with me forever. I can remember it forever.
For all time, for the rest of your life.
That is right.
Okay, back to the article. So it says, as we approach what is commonly regarded as his birthday, April 23rd, let's explore some of the phrases Shakespeare popularized that we still use today. So yeah, it's getting up to Shakespeare's birthday, April 23rd. I think he was born when he, a long time ago. He wasn't famous. No one's sure exactly when he was born, but this is the best knowledge that we have from historians. So we're going to look at some of the phrases he's popularized. When you popularize something, you make something popular. Doesn't mean you invented it, doesn't mean you created it, but it was there. It was kind of being ignored, or only a few people knew about it, and then someone does something with it and suddenly everyone knows about it. It gets a lot of attention and it becomes popular. Think of it as if a famous pop star starts wearing your clothes or eating in your restaurant and they post about it and suddenly everyone knows about it and it becomes popular. That star, that celebrity has popularized that thing, made it popular. So let's find out about the first phrase from William Shakespeare. After the break. That's not the first phrase. That's just me saying after the break.
All right.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。这2天的课程是要介绍源自于莎士比亚的日常英语。那标题里面写到 The best of the bard。那 B-A-R-D bard 这个字原本是指吟游诗人。The Bard 则是对莎士比亚的尊称。莎士比亚他出生于1564年，那他在世的52年里面，创作出一些世界上最伟大的巨作，并且永远改变了英语这个语言。随着他的公认的生日4月23日就快到了，我们就借着这个机会来看看一些源自于莎士比亚的日常英文吧。好，单字 forever 这个副词它就有永远或是长久的意思。补充一下 ，Mike 老师刚刚则有聊到一部希斯莱杰所主演的电影，叫做《10 Things I Hate About You》。那这就是从莎士比亚的作品《寻汉记》《The Taming of the Shrew》衍生而来的。同学们有兴趣，你可以去查查看。好，这边有一个重点，我们要进入文法时间。这边要介绍的重点是 what 引导名词子句时表示点点点的事物，就相当于 the thing that 或是 the things that。那么 what 引导的名词子句可以当主词、受词或是补语用。例如 I don't know what she's talking about。我不知道她在说什么。那名词子句 what she's talking about 就是当受词用，也就是动词 know 的受词。那这回课文中。
Green-eyed monster. Shakespeare's success was not without its problems. During his life, many looked on in envy at his fame and accomplishments. Today, we might refer to such jealousy as a green-eyed monster. This phrase comes from Shakespeare's play Othello. In this, the character Iago says,
"Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on."
Cruel to be kind. Another famous Shakespearean phrase still in use today is cruel to be kind. This means causing someone pain because you think it'll help them in the long run. It comes from a line in the play Hamlet.
"I must be cruel only to be kind. Thus bad begins, and worse remains behind."
The character Hamlet says after killing someone.
All right, we are back. And to celebrate Shakespeare's birthday, which is coming up on April 23rd, we're looking at some of the very famous and popular and common phrases in English that he invented, along with writing, a couple dozen great plays.
Of course.
He also kind of, changed the way we speak English. So let's find out about the first one. What is it?
Green-eyed monster.
Ooh, the green-eyed monster. Stay away from him.
Shakespeare's success was not without its problems. During his life, many looked on in envy at his fame and accomplishments. Okay, so we're looking at this word here, monster. Usually when you're talking about monster, a monster is usually like a large, ugly, or frightening creature that appears in stories. So for example, you could say, in the story, the hero killed the monster with a magical sword.
Okay, so it's a giant, an ogre, an orc, a dragon,
Scary.
Maybe in some places, right? But this is a green-eyed monster. That's very strange. But it did actually have something to do with Shakespeare's accomplishments. Your accomplishments are the good things that you do, the great goals that you achieve, the successes that you have. If you can point to a lot of things, I won this prize and I came first in this and I was best in my class, you're talking about your accomplishments. Don't talk about them too much, okay? Otherwise, people are going to get annoyed. But when you do great things, give yourself a pat on the back and a good little reward because that is an accomplishment. It's a good success that you or a group of people have achieved. For example, building the bridge in less than a year was a great accomplishment for the team. It was a really good thing that they did. All right, so let's talk about the green-eyed monster. It had something to do with Shakespeare's success and his accomplishments. Next we read, today we might refer to such jealousy as a green-eyed monster. Okay, so if someone does something well and it makes you feel, like you don't like them because they did better than you and you wish you could do that, you are feeling the emotion of jealousy. And Shakespeare called this the green-eyed monster. That's interesting. We often connect jealousy to the color green.
That's right.
And of course, being a monster means being kind of a horrible person. So you are becoming so mean and nasty just because you're jealous of another person. This phrase comes from Shakespeare's play Othello, one of his more famous tragedies.
Okay, so actually we're not talking about an actual
Not a real
monster.
Well, unless you are the monster because you're jealous, or me, or whoever.
That's right, but
Yeah.
you're behaving like a monster, more like,
Right,
not
but
looking like a
looking
monster.
Exactly.
All right, and we're also looking at here, refer to, right? Well, to refer, that's a verb, but refer to is a phrasal verb. If you refer to a particular subject or person, you talk about them or mention them, or basically you have a direct connection to them. So for example, you could say, many people refer to New York City as the Big Apple. So when you think of New York City, that's people call it the Big Apple.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue. In this, the character Iago says, "Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on." That's Shakespearean language, right?
That is definitely Shakespearean English. It's a little bit poetry, it's a
Yes.
little bit English, and it's sometimes a lot hard to understand.
Exactly.
All right, so there you go. The green-eyed monster, it's making fun of the meat that it feeds on. To mock is to make fun of. So basically, it's making you look bad when you're being jealous, and it's not a good emotion. I think we can all agree. And so, yes, even today, we would say, ooh, the green-eyed monsters appeared because someone is acting so jealous. Let's move on to another one. Cruel to be kind.
Ooh.
That's another phrase. To be cruel, to be kind. You're being mean to someone, but you're doing it for their own good. So maybe you have a friend who plays too many video games. The big exams are coming up. You take their machine away. They can't play games. That will hopefully make them focus on their work. You are being cruel to be kind. You're being kind of mean now to be helpful in the future. It says another famous Shakespearean phrase still in use today is cruel to be kind. This means causing someone pain because you think it'll help them in the long run or in the future. So it may be a cruel thing now, it may feel cruel, but you're trying to do it for good reasons. Cruel, though, is being mean to someone. Maybe you're being mean for a good reason, But often if people are cruel, they are doing it just because they like to be mean. They like the power. They like to make other people suffer. If you're teasing someone and they start to cry, and then you keep teasing them, don't do that. That's very cruel. Bullies are cruel. Older brothers and sisters can be cruel to their younger brothers and sisters. This is hopefully something people grow out of and learn that it's not good. But of course, there can be cruel people in the world.
That's true.
Sad,
but
but
it
true.
is okay to, to be cruel because you want to be kind. And I think that is okay.
That can definitely be a better reason to be cruel than just because, I want to be. Let's look at an example sentence for this. The king was known for his cruel punishments against his enemies. Yes, history is filled with cruel kings and other mean and nasty leaders.
That's right. Okay, well, let's talk about this phrase.
Yeah, where does it come from?
It comes from a line in the play Hamlet.
Okay.
I must be cruel only to be kind. Thus bad begins and worse remains behind. The character Hamlet says after killing someone.
Wow.
I didn't know that actually it's from Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And you hear this phrase a lot. You gotta be cruel to be kind. But a lot of times people don't know where they come from, right?
Exactly right. And maybe because it comes from Hamlet, probably his most famous play, that might be why this phrase is not as famous as, for example, to be or not to be. That is the question. That's the famous phrase from Hamlet that everybody should know.
That's
but
right.
cruel to be kind is also from there. Here's a little interesting little fact. I can tell you that this line comes from the end of a scene.
Okay.
Because when you watch Shakespeare, he has rhymes at the end of the scene.
Really?
That would kind of tell the people to close the curtain or something like that. So cruel only to be kind, thus bad begins and worst remains behind. Kind behind.
I get
That's the
it
end
now.
of the scene. Yeah, it's a little style thing that Shakespeare has. So if you ever see a Shakespeare play and you hear a rhyme, it's time to run to the bathroom. And it's time for us to say goodbye. So there you go. We ended on a rhyme, the end of the scene. But we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Isn't that Shakespeare?
No, I think so.
第一个要介绍的用语是 green-eyed monster， 字面意思是绿眼怪物。那现在呢，这个用语已经成为嫉妒的代称了。在莎士比亚的一生当中，许多人羡慕他的名气和成就，那我们就可以把这种嫉妒心称为 green-eyed monster。那这个词语是源自于莎士比亚的戏剧《奥赛罗》。好，我们看一下单字 monster 这个名词，它表示怪物、怪兽。Mike 老师说的 ogre O-G-R-E， 那这个名词可以指食人妖怪，会吃人的怪物。好，那么 accomplishment 这个名词，它表示成就。当成就解释是可数名词，如果当完成、实现来解释，则是不可数名词。再看到 refer 这个动词，它有提到、论及的意思。Refer to somebody or something as 点点点，就可以表达把某人事物称为什么什么。好，那第二个要介绍的用语是 cruel to be kind。残忍是为了慈悲，意思就是因为你认为从长远的角度来看对某人是有帮助的，而对他造成了痛苦。那它是出自于哈姆雷特这一出剧。好，单字 cruel 这个形容词是形容残忍的、残酷的。Mike 老师这时候有提到 bully 这个名词 B-U-L-L-Y bully 它表示霸凌者，那它也可以当动词来表达霸凌的意思。这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来比较一下 envy 跟 jealousy 的异同。这个名词 envy 跟 jealousy 它们都带有羡慕、嫉妒的意思，有时候可以互换，但是两者其实有些微不同。先来看 envy， 它表示羡慕，指的是希望拥有别人拥有的物品、特质或是成就，常常就带有对他人幸福或成功的羡慕。好，举例来说，They looked with envy at her perfect manicure. 他们羡慕地看着她那完美的美甲。好，那么 jealousy 则是指嫉妒、吃醋。这个单字适用于两个使用情境，一个就是呢，希望得到别人拥有的事物而感到不开心，就跟 envy 类似，但是通常会带有更多的负面情绪。那第二个情境是表达害怕失去自己拥有的人或事物而感到不安或疑虑，尤其是涉及感情关系。举例来说 ，jealousy can ruin a relationship.
极度
会毁掉一段关系。好，那么以上这些讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
In 2002, people in the UK voted William Shakespeare the fifth greatest Briton of all time. That's not bad for someone born in 1564. Over the following 52 years, Shakespeare wrote some of the world's greatest plays and changed the English language forever. So, as we approach what is commonly regarded as his birthday, April 23rd, let's explore some of the phrases Shakespeare popularized that we still use today. Green-eyed monster. Shakespeare's success was not without its problems. During his life, many looked on in envy at his fame and accomplishments. Today, we might refer to such jealousy as a green-eyed monster. This phrase comes from Shakespeare's play Othello. In this, the character Iago says,
"Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on."
Cruel to be kind. Another famous Shakespearean phrase still in use today is cruel to be kind. This means causing someone pain because you think it'll help them in the long run. It comes from a line in the play Hamlet.
"I must be cruel only to be kind. Thus bad begins, and worse remains behind."
The character Hamlet says after killing someone.
Hey, did you hear about the disagreement between Lisa and John today?
Oh, yeah. I heard it was pretty intense.
Yeah, I'm thinking about bringing it up in the meeting later just to see what happens.
You really like stirring the pot, don't you?
Pot? What pot? I'm not cooking anything.
No, it's just an expression. It just means to provoke controversy by causing drama.
Well, someone has to keep things interesting around here. I'm gonna see what happens. I think it's gonna be really fun. Hi everyone, today's phrase is stir the pot.
That's right. Stir the pot doesn't just mean to mix ingredients in a pot while cooking. It's also an idiom.
As an idiom, stir the pot means to create drama or trouble by mentioning issues that might agitate others.
Right. It describes someone who likes to bring up sensitive topics or provoke conflicts, often just for the fun of it.
For example, if someone knows two coworkers don't get along and intentionally brings up a topic that will make them argue, they're stirring the pot.
You might hear it used like this. She likes to stir the pot by making controversial comments during meetings.
Or he's always stirring the pot with his strong opinions on social media.
Remember, stirring the pot is usually not a positive thing. Maintaining peace is much better than creating unnecessary chaos.
Right. Let's focus on spreading positive vibes instead.
That's all for today.
See you next time. Bye.
Peace.